Karen, you just find the wrong house, I said as the entire street fell silent and her smile started to crack. She had just stapled a bright red, aggressive landscaping violation across my mailbox like a warning poster. My roses were trimmed to perfection, my lawn sharper than a golf course, yet she stood there filming me, hoping for a meltdown. Instead, I smiled because she had no idea what she had just triggered. If you love powerful stories, you don't want to miss this. But before we continue, tell us where you are watching from. It makes us happy to see how far our stories travel. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Karen laughed and said the fine would double if I argued, but three neighbors were already whispering. What she didn't know was that last month she approved my landscaping plan herself during a recorded HOA Zoom meeting. I simply pulled out my tablet and pressed play. Her voice filled the street, praising my yard as community standard perfection. The laughter started quietly, then spread like wildfire. Her face drained of color, but she snapped back, claiming new emergency rules. That was when city inspectors turned the corner. She had reported my yard as hazardous vegetation. Unfortunately for her, filing false municipal reports carries serious penalties. The late inspector asked her for identification while neighbors filmed everything. Karen's voice shook as she realized the situation had flipped completely. I calmly watered my roses, knowing her control was already collapsing. Karen tried to laugh it off, but her hands were shaking so badly she dropped her phone right in front of everyone. The inspector picked it up before she could grab it and asked calmly, "Ma'am, did you knowingly file a false hazard report?" The entire street went silent. Even the birds sounded like they stopped chirping just to watch her answer. She pointed at my yard, rambling about visual aggression and intimidating plant height. My neighbor, Mr. Lewis, actually choked trying not to laugh. Someone behind him whispered, "They're roses, not attack dogs." I kept watering quietly, letting her dig her own hole deeper. Then came the first ugly twist. The inspector asked if she was the sole authority approving landscaping complaints. Karen proudly said yes, like she was announcing a promotion. That was when the second inspector opened a folder and said, "Interesting, because we've received 8 complaints about selective enforcement." Murmurs exploded across the street. 2 neighbors stepped forward immediately. One even had printed emails. Karen's face turned gray. She tried pivoting, saying the HOA board supported her fully. That confidence lasted exactly 12 seconds, because right then, the HOA vice president walked up, holding his phone out. "Karen, why am I getting calls from the city legal department?" Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I finally spoke, calm and sweet. "Karen, maybe the landscaping wasn't aggressive. Maybe it was just honest." Someone clapped. Then another. Then half the street. And Karen realized something terrifying. This was no longer about a fine. This was about her entire reputation, and it was collapsing in real time. Karen's eyes darted from face to face, searching for someone, anyone, still on her side. But the crowd had shifted. Phones were out. Neighbors who used to nod politely at her were now openly whispering. The HOA vice president stepped closer, lowering his voice, but not enough to hide the tension. "Karen, the city says this is the third false report tied to your name." A ripple of gasps moved through the street. Karen snapped, pointing at me. "He's manipulating everyone. Look at this yard. It's excessive. It's threatening property values." The inspector raised an eyebrow and slowly turned to the vice president. "Sir, we may need HOA compliance records. Immediately." That was the second ugly twist, because Karen's face did something strange, not anger, fear. The vice president looked confused. "Karen, you submitted the last compliance batch, right?" Silence. Then my neighbor, Mrs. Patel, stepped forward, holding a folder. "Actually, I requested copies last week." She opened it. Empty sections, missing signatures, missing approvals, missing everything. Karen lunged to grab it, but the inspector stepped between them. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to step back." I spoke softly, almost kindly. "Karen, power isn't control, it's responsibility." Her voice cracked. "You planned this." I smiled. "No, I just kept records." Then city enforcement vehicles rolled slowly down the street. Not fast, not loud, just unavoidable. Karen's shoulders dropped as reality finally landed. This wasn't neighborhood drama anymore. This was official. And for the first time, Karen looked small. Please like, comment, and subscribe. The city vehicles stopped directly in front of Karen's house, not mine. That detail alone made the entire street buzz with quiet shock. Officers stepped out calmly, professionally, like this was just another Tuesday, but everyone could feel the weight of the moment pressing down. Karen tried one last time to stand tall. "This is harassment," she said, but her voice sounded thin, like paper tearing. The lead officer spoke gently but firmly. "Ma'am, we just need to ask you some questions regarding multiple false municipal filings and possible document manipulation." The word manipulation hit harder than anything else. Neighbors weren't whispering anymore. They were watching openly now. The same people Karen used to fine over mailbox paint and holiday lights were seeing something shift. Not revenge, not chaos, justice. Then came the final twist. The HOA vice president cleared his throat and said, "Karen, effective immediately, you're suspended pending full board investigation." You could actually hear someone drop a coffee cup 2 houses down. Karen turned toward me like she wanted to say something cruel, something final. Instead, nothing came out because she knew. She had pushed too hard, controlled too much, and underestimated the quiet people who simply document everything. I walked over, handed her the red violation paper she'd stapled to my mailbox earlier, and said softly, "You forgot this." Not mocking, not angry, just calm. And that hurt her more than shouting ever could. As officers guided her aside to talk, the street slowly returned to normal. Kids came back outside, someone turned on music, life moved forward. But one thing had changed forever. Karen wasn't feared anymore. She was a lesson. Please like, comment, and subscribe.